Hey everyone, this is Kieran from MSK Physio, and today we're going to work on some lunges. It's a nice asymmetrical exercise, start introducing some load to anything in the lower limb that might have been injured, or if we want to progress some, say, spinal rehab, but we're not ready to start bending in certain directions, this is a nice way to start loading up and challenging those muscles as well. So the interesting thing with lunges is how it applies to running and walking and the mechanics behind that. So a lot of the times we'll get lunges where we see people trying to square the hips, and that's not that it's a bad thing, but it doesn't necessarily create a pattern that we'd get into if, say, we were trying to create stability. Or a pattern that we'd get into if we were going to like push off and sprint, and to a lesser degree walking. You know, we don't quite get into these ranges with walking, but maybe hiking, going uphill, getting into like big steps, things like that. So the basic mechanics of it is that if my right leg's behind me, my pelvis is going to be following that leg, so it's going to turn to the right. But I can't face that way. I have to look where I'm going, so I'm going to turn my upper body to look at the camera here. So why would I then twist my hips to face straight as well? Because now what I'm doing actually is creating a situation where my left leg should be behind. So it can just create a bit of a counter rotation that it just isn't that useful in the patterning sense. So we want to think about this pattern when we're lunging. The other thing is thinking about just being tall. So we're not like drifting forward a little bit, head isn't going here. It's okay if you do those things, but the intent to try not to, so that it becomes a choice of doing it or don't doing it. And you could do both, there's no problem there. But we'll try and train the one that's difficult. And I'm just highlighting the things that are most difficult for the general population that I've seen. So you can have a weight, in both hands. It's nice sometimes to do a lunge where the weight's in one hand and that weight's dragging me sideways and I have to stabilize against that. So you could do walking lunges, you could do forward, you could do reverse, all great versions. Find what you enjoy, find what's useful. You could do split squats where your front foot's raised. You could do Bulgarian split squats where your back foot's raised. All lunge variations, all useful. So I'm gonna go forward to start with. I'm gonna go down and up. Now, if you had knee pain, you might reduce how far your knee goes past your toes. The reason being is that'll be less aggravating for some types of knee pain. For other types of knee pain, it might be more beneficial to go this way. So play around with it. There's nothing wrong with the knees going past the toes, and that's what happens when you squat. That's what happens when you go downstairs. It's a range and a pattern that we need strength and control with. So don't be afraid of it, just work with what you've got to start with. So as I come forward, I'm thinking about starting that my hips are not squared up, because that's going to drop this back knee in. So squared up that way, facing forward, and then just go up and down. And just try and keep the hips from twisting into here. Don't worry too much about huge movements of, or little movements of the knee coming in. It's going towards my big toe. I'm going to get this kind of shape. If it goes way in, can you stop that? If you can't, maybe get a little band, anchor it over here. The band is now going to be pulling you in, and you got to resist and push out. And that's going to give you a little bit more stability because it's reflexive, and then use it to train yourself and then try and take it away and then see if you can control the movement without that knee dropping in too much. There's a time and place for that, but we can do that in a different exercise. You could do walking lunges, come down, and go backwards. The whole time, I'm not trying to square my hips forward. I'm also thinking about being tall. I'm not leaning forward. So you might find when you go tall, you can't go as deep because you get tightness, say, in the front of the hip. There's the flexibility deficit you might have been avoiding. Work through it, and that flexibility will open up as you try to do good technique. With a weight, same thing. Hold it here, hold it here. You could hold it here. There isn't a wrong or right way. Just find ways that are challenging for you. You might find that when you hold it in the right hand, it's no problem. You might find when you hold it in the left hand that you start to fall over. Try in the left hand. Cool, so just some basics on lunging, and play around with those principles, particularly the hip movement. See if you can just let it follow the leg that goes behind, and then square up and try and hold that and stay tall. Try to just think about one thing per set though, otherwise you just will, the exercise you won't get the most out of. So let us know if you have any troubles with that. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.